Wow, that was so nice. Thank you, Charles. Charles is one of the nicest people I've ever met, and his wife, Heather. So it's awesome to be here. Thank you for coming bright and early this morning. Actually, thank you for starting at 10. I appreciate that. So let's just dig in and get started, shall we? All right. So, first one. Let me give you a little bit of background, actually, on where this talk comes from. And, backstory, I've been doing what I do for about 20 years now. And so, way early in my career, I realized that, way early in my career, I was asked to teach at UNLV. So I got my undergrad degree there in metal sculpture, and then I moved out to San Francisco and started working in the crazy web.com days, in 1998, 2001. Anyway, I moved back to Vegas, took a job as a web designer, and I was asked by asked by the Management Information Systems department to teach. And so I started teaching over there. And then a couple semesters later, the department I graduated from, the art department, said, "Why are you teaching management information systems? You graduated with an art degree. Come teach over here. We need people who know computers." And so I did. I was asked to put together a curriculum for interface design. And when I was putting together the curriculum, what I realized was man, when I got my art degree, there were a lot of things I didn't learn. And what I would love to teach my students is some of the things that I learned by working in the real world. Some things like how to work with marketing departments instead of hate them, how to listen, how to let go of the things that I poured my heart and soul into this work, and then somebody be like, "Well, yeah, no, that's not going to work." So how to let go a little bit, and how to sell my work, how to sell my ideas. Because that was something that I'd be like, "Oh, client who's hired me, I have this great idea that could solve your problem." And they'd be like, "No, our idea is way better." And I would be frustrated, and it killed my soul a little bit. So that's what I put together with this talk, with The Art of the Sell, is that over the course of 20 years, I've learned a bunch of stuff the hard way, mostly fumbling through a lot of adventures and mishaps and misadventures, and learning the hard way. And so these are the things that I bring with Art of the Sell. So as I was creating this curriculum, I decided my students are going to have these 2 rules of design. And the first one is kill your darlings. And it's a literary term where, the writers talk about killing, you develop these characters and you put all this energy and you care about these characters, and then you have to kill them off. And then it's the same with your work, right? We put a lot of time and soul and care into the things that we make. At least I hope we do. I know we do. That's why we're here, honing our craft and getting better at it, right? But we care about these things. But sometimes when you're hired by someone to make a thing, you have to let go a little bit. Sometimes you have to kill your thing. So I wanted to teach my students how to have a little bit of a tough skin when they do have to. Don't get defensive, don't get angry, just learn how to roll with it a little bit. My second rule was sell your shit. And granted, I was 26 years old, so I swore more, I thought it had more dramatic impact. 41 now, don't swear as much. Whatever, but still an impactful rule, right? And here's the thing, with sell your shit, the most awesome thing happens if you're really good at selling your shit. You don't need rule number 1. Now, I didn't realize that when I made this rule. I realized it a good 15 years later. But yeah, the better you are at selling your ideas, at knowing that you're listening to what your customer needs. And, with customers, I'll give you context in a minute, but the better you are at listening to their needs and then using your skills to show them that you understand, the less you have to kill because you've sold it. So, here's a great thing too is, the better I got at selling, at being able to articulate and communicate my ideas. So as a design background person, we used to do this thing where you get a client who's interested, you pitch 3 different designs, and every time they would come back and go, "Well, we like a little bit of all of these. We want you to make a Frankenstein of all of these ideas." And it's never a good idea. Never. It's 3 separate concepts. So the better I got at this, I learned that all I ever had to do moving forward was sell them one idea. I listened and I'd go back with one concept and explain to them why it met their needs. And then moving forward, all you have are smaller revisions that get you even closer, not over and over. And another benefit of being able to sell your idea is that if you do have revisions, they should be minimal. You should never pass the point of 3 revisions with a client in terms of design specifically, but developers, it works as well. Iteration is not the same as revision, by the way, but you should never have to get through more than 3 revisions of a thing. If you are working on more than 3 revisions of a thing, there is a communication problem, not a design or code problem, usually. Bugs can be challenging. So anyway, yeah, if you learn how to sell your shit, you have to kill less, a lot less. All right, so communication, I really think communication is the foundation of all of this. We talk about the art of sell and selling your ideas. Communication is the foundation of all of these things. So when you have communication, you're able to create this understanding. There's like, okay, I understand the vision, what we're trying to get to. And when you have that understanding, then you're able to establish confidence mutually. They have confidence in your ability to solve their problem. You have confidence in their ability to trust you. And trust is sort of the key here. It's the thing we want to build up to. When you have trust, you have freedom. And it's amazing to have a client. One of the best experiences I've ever had is big client meeting. We go back, we come up with some concepts for them that we think will solve their problem. And the first response on the first thing that we showed them was, "You've earned our trust." That's an amazing feeling. That's an amazing feeling. And it wasn't just, setting a bunch of stuff in front of them. It was talking about it. It was being able to communicate what our ideas were and how they met their needs. So communication is a huge, huge, huge aspect. I mean, communication to me is the art of the sell. So to give you a little bit of context in terms of how I approach these things, across my career, I really looked back and said, what are the different situations that I'm in? It's me with my team or coworkers. Sometimes you don't work directly with clients. Sometimes you do. Sometimes it's departments and bosses. Sometimes it's clients or customers if you're a product person. I do and have done a little bit of both across the career. Sometimes I'm working on product stuff. Sometimes I'm working on consulting stuff or coaching. And so, yeah, like these are some different contexts. And as, early on in my career, probably for the first 12 years, I found myself frustrated a lot. Like I was frustrated that why don't they understand? Why do I have to kill my babies? Why do I have to, I was frustrated a lot. And then when I really started to think about it, I realized that the common denominator in all of these contexts was me. That I can't always control the outcome of every situation that I have with somebody, but I can control my actions and how I approach it. And so I came up with these 12 check yourself checkpoints. And these check yourself checkpoints are the things that when something starts going amiss in a project or in a relationship, like a working relationship or whatever, these are the things that I can look at and say, okay, am I doing all the things that I've learned the hard way that I know I need to check about myself, the things I have control over? So let's dig into these. Communication design. So we've seen a couple talks that talk about different ways to actually, I think Matt's was really good. Wait. Anyway, there you are. I saw you over there. You talked about some great stuff. And I like to reinforce that. Every point of communication that you have with another person or that they have with you is an opportunity to design. And you don't have to be a designer to design communication. You think about stuff like the scope of work that you create. You think about the emails that you write. Emails are one of my favorite examples because emails, start there. If you're going to start somewhere, start by looking at your emails. Is it a big block of text that you're sending? How can you format it visually to make it more digestible? How can you design your meetings so that they're more productive? You can create an agenda. You can have very specific bullet points. I think with email design, like seriously breaking stuff out into like bolded headers and little bullet points and simplifying your message it sounds so logical. Like, of course, Jaimee, this is so obvious, but believe me, if we were all doing this already, I would be out of work, and I'm not. So there's a lot of people still doing some crazy stuff out there. Every interaction point with you that somebody has with you is an opportunity to be improved, to design that, structure it, and actually make it happen the way you want. You can even structure how they give you feedback. That is a design opportunity. Here's another one. Be specific immediately. So this is one I really like to use email, again, as an example of this, but scheduling things via email. How many times have you seen the example of, like, somebody gives you an email, they say, hey, do you have time to meet later this week? And you just respond like, yeah, I'm free this week. And then, like 6 emails later, you've arrived at a time, and maybe, like, yeah, via Skype video, we're going to talk on Thursday. Oh, what time zone? Be specific immediately. If you can, if you're the one asking a person, hey, do you have time to meet this weekend? Take the time to go look at your calendar and include the times you are available and the times that you want to have that call. If they have been the one to ask you, then respond with times and days that you're available and include the time zone. I see that email example no less than once a week, every single week. And it's crazy. These come through my desk, or they come through, or I'm CC'd on it. This communication point, we could save so much time by getting more specific and being more useful with the words that we're using. Be specific immediately. Get right to the point. All right, so another one is word choices. I love to use the example of Yoda. We like Yoda, he says do or do not. There is no try. I love this because if we were to say, like, I'll try, there's passive intent there. Do or don't do it. BTFO, right? Do it or don't do it. There's really active intent there. So think of active intent versus passive intent. There are a few other words that I would love to get you just thinking about and maybe ruling out of your writing and in your verbal communication. The word just. I just wanted to ask you, do we really need the word just? It's a passive intent word. Just move it over 11 pixels. Just change everything. You belittle the person when we use the word just. Indirectly and unintentionally, usually. It's not like, oh, just, but in a way it does. And word choices, interestingly, they impact how people receive us, whether it's a positive tone or a negative tone. Think about, here's an example that I worked with a manager for a while, and she used to say things like, we really, we're working with a department. We want to make them feel like they're involved in this decision. We want, those sorts of things. Words underscore intention. And when you say we want to make them feel like, or we need to educate the client, that's one that drives me crazy too. We feel like we know more and we need to teach them. But how about let's collaborate? How about instead of we want to make them feel, you either want them to be involved or you don't. You don't need to create a feeling that is a false sense of reality. So like I say, instead of we want to make them feel like they're a part of it, we want them to be a part of it. Otherwise, don't bring it up. So think about those sorts of things in your communication. They're small, but they're intent-driven. And if we can improve those, it actually improves how we're received. Or it can be a negative thing too, if you're more negative tones and negative words, choices and stuff. So those are just a few examples of word choices, but start to think about word choices and how you use them and where you use them. Remove the word just. It's one of those things that's so unnecessary. Once you're aware of it, I still use it in my words when I speak a lot, but in my writing, I've gotten much better about removing the word just, and it's so unnecessary. It's crazy. All right, let's keep moving. So speak with confidence. This one took me a really long time to even know that I wasn't doing it. I use, and we talk about passive intent and active intent, I would use words like I really think it would be helpful if, and then the rest of the sentence. And instead of I really think it would be, if we're using, like we were talking, the word choices, there's an element of confidence. And when somebody is hiring you to do a thing, they expect a certain level of confidence. You're the expert that they hired. And I didn't realize I was doing this for a long, long time. But in effort to be kind and to be nice, I ended up coming off passive and very easy to just put me aside and be like, oh, okay, well, that's very cute, Jaimee. Thank you, pink shirt girl. I don't wear pink shirts normally, just saying. But it's just one of those things. It shouldn't matter, right? If you're speaking with more confidence and more clarity about what you think is the right path or what you think is right for the project, passive intent can hurt you. It took me forever. It took a really good colleague of mine who kind of took me aside and said, did you notice, like, in your words and when you write in your emails and stuff, like you use a lot of kind of and maybe and it would be cool if. You use a lot of that. Get rid of that and your sentences are stronger. Your word choices are stronger. It helped me a lot. That was actually Michael Jurowitz, if you guys know Jury. That was the guy who took me aside and helped me get better at that. So I thought that was really cool. Really cool. It's cool working with that guy very briefly. All right, so on the other side of confidence, there's also don't be a jerk. Right? So there's such a fine line sometimes between being confident and being a jerk. And I've been both. I've been a jerk. So there was this one time when I was working at a web startup.com way back 1998, 99. And when the economy started to shift, 2000, 2001, all the dot-coms were seeing layoffs and all that. Ours was no exception. And we're having this big all-hands meeting with the 98 of us that are left, and people are scared. They're worried about their job, not me. I'm like, I'm not scared. And, I don't know. When you work at a company, you hear the stuff that often the upper management doesn't hear, right? And so, but people are afraid to speak up, not me. I was raised by a Marine. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. And so it took me a long time to really learn how to be a little more diplomatic. It's okay to speak your mind. You don't have to sugarcoat stuff. I'm not saying sugarcoat stuff, but I am saying don't be a jerk. So in this all-hands meeting, at the end, our CEO's like, are there any questions? I stand up, all bold, and I don't remember what I said. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I do remember his response. And his response was like his whole physical body changed. He just kind of went, leave it to brass tacks Newberry to ask something like that. And then he proceeded to answer. And that stuck with me. I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that reaction from our CEO. Oh, God, brass tacks Newberry. What did I say? But I remember that I could have said that. Whatever it was, I could have done it better. I could have not been a jerk. And I think that there are opportunities for us to always improve what we say and how we say it. And so be mindful of that. There's a great SpongeBob holiday show called, it's a Christmas holiday, and there's a song that says, don't be a jerk, it's Christmas. One of my favorite songs now. It's awesome. So let's play that in our minds. All right, so don't be judgy. Here's another one that I'll just try to move through kind of quickly here. But so I was working with this really big traditional publishing company many years ago, and in walks the VP. My direct contact was the VP of one of the departments, and so immediately as a young punk designer, I label him in my mind, oh, I get to work with corporate Bob. And so being judgy as he was, and I'm not proud of this either, right? But we do these things, right? Oh, corporate Bob. And we're having this conversation about what we need to do on the project. And at some point I'm like, okay, well, I'll go back and we'll work up something in Photoshop. And he goes, I've been known to sling a little Photoshop. And inside I died a little. I was like, oh, corporate Bob, don't ever touch Photoshop. Please leave that to us. Ugh, God, no. Step away from the Photoshop. And I really believed that at that time. But about an hour later, I get back to my desk, and in my inbox is waiting for me a little image that corporate Bob whipped up. And I look at this image and everything he had been trying to explain to me over the course of our meeting, which I thought I understood. I genuinely thought I understood, but I understood it 1,000 times more clearly when I saw this little image that he took 5 minutes slinging in Photoshop. And while I was busy being judgy and oh no, don't worry about it, we got it, he was able to communicate something so much more accurately. And it taught me a very valuable lesson in that Jaimee, maybe don't be a judgy jerk. Give people the space to communicate with you clearly. If they want to sling a little Photoshop, don't assume that because he wears khakis and a polo shirt that he can't do that. Like, don't be a jerk. Don't be judgy. Oh, I'm so not proud of that. It's a thing I learned, though. Please don't do that. Don't do it to people. Give people space to communicate. Listen more. Accept responsibility. This is one that when I say accept responsibility, I want to be clear that I'm not saying accept blame for things that go wrong. I'm saying look for opportunities to take on more that actually helps your client do more. So a great example is like somebody says in passing, your client or a teammate or whatever, they say like, hey, we need to meet sometime this week, maybe Friday. So, and then you wait for them to schedule, they never schedule, and then the next week comes and, you know, like, you're kind of like, well, you said that you wanted to meet, you never met, and we never met, and so that thing never got done, or whatever. But you could use an example like that to actually be proactively responsible. And maybe they set it on a Monday, and Wednesday they still haven't said anything about meeting, but you could use that as an opportunity to accept responsibility, right? Proactive responsibility. You could be like, hey, you said you wanted to meet. I'm available at these days and times. Does something there work on your calendar? And, you know, often we just assume that they're busy. If it were important, they'll get to us when they have time. But instead of making that an assumption, if you're proactive about making something happen that you know needs to happen, you come out shining. You really do. You make their life a little tiny bit easier. And sometimes they can't even pinpoint what it is about working with you that makes things easier, but it's little stuff like that that makes a huge difference. If there are opportunities for you to do that in your working relationships with other human beings, look for them, take them, expand on them. That's one small example. Silence will hurt you, and developers, you are brilliant at silence. Designers are also not great at being super vocal unless they're upset about something. So you did it wrong. You know, it's one of these things that sometimes we need heads down time to focus and digest and work on and solve problems, right? But if we don't communicate and set expectations around that, silence actually creates these gaps. And when you create gaps with another person, they fill the gaps, and what they fill the gaps with is never good. And a little example of that is like I used to run an animation interactive shop. We had offices in Chicago and Las Vegas, and the team, you know, we were kind of like, you know, just get the work done by the deadline, doesn't matter. But if I haven't heard from you by 10 a.m., I assume you're dead and I make other plans because I have clients to answer to. You don't, you know, your face isn't on the line. So mine is. And if I haven't heard from you by 10 a.m., I will literally assume you're dead and I'll hire somebody else or I'll put somebody else to fill that spot. And so my guys knew, and yes, I worked with all guys, so that's a common thing, right? But so when I say that, I'm not trying to be alienating. My guys knew that if they hadn't let me know that they were alive by 10, I was making other plans for them. Going silent, but it does that. It creates that kind of drama. If you feel like a client is micromanaging you, communicate more. You may think that you're over communicating, but I can tell you if you're in a situation that feels tense about how they're like, where are you? Where are we on that? Or even if you're gonna blow a deadline and you know it, communicate it sooner than later. Don't wait and see if you can power through it. I'm a little bit of a procrastinator at times by nature. And I will like wait until that 12th hour. And then I'm like, I know I can get it done, but I haven't communicated that I'm behind. Because I don't really think I'm behind. I'm just procrastinating. Anyway, like I'm going to make that deadline. But the moment you think you might miss it, communicate about it. Because getting more time, if you're clear and upfront about it, is usually much easier than going to them and saying, oh, I'm still not done after the timeline has passed. But let me also underscore this. If you set an expectation, you won't hear from me for 3 days. I'm going to be quiet from Tuesday to Thursday. You'll hear from me Friday morning at 8 a.m. I will let you know where we're at. Even if it's something as simple as that, be specific on when you are going to follow through so that they know what to expect. If they don't hear from you, though, you set an expectation and you don't deliver on it, then you create more problems for yourself. So be responsible that way. All right, let's keep moving here. All right, follow up. This is a really interesting one. So I'm CEO at Martian Craft, and interesting, we had a client recently. We had gone through the bidding process, we got the gig, and later they told us, you guys were in competition with another similar agency, and the reason you guys got the gig and they didn't was it literally came down to follow-up. You guys were really proactive at following up. You made us feel like you cared. Made them feel. We did care. We do care. And communicating with people all throughout the process frequently is important. And this client said, if the other team couldn't give me time during the bid process, how is it going to be to work with them? And it's not just following up on that process, but think about, with clients in particular, if we're talking about selling or relationships or whatever, following up, it's not just about selling, but it's about keeping clients too, right? It's about keeping people happy and keeping relationships alive. And, maybe you worked with so-and-so. I went to high school with a guy who I've kept in touch with, who is now the VP at Cartoon Network. How awesome is that? Follow up once in a while. You never know where relationships can go and who's going to be where in 2 years or 5 years. Follow up with people. Maintain those relationships. It's really, really valuable. And it's not always about what you can get out of it. Sometimes it's genuine interest in how a person is doing. How's their family? Get to know them. Human level stuff. It's really important. But that follow-up is key in a lot of different instances. Follow up with people. Okay, so here's another one. Meet them where they're at. Oh boy, in 2005, when I had that web interaction shop, I was working with the CEO of a construction company, and they needed a website overhaul. And we got to the point in the project where I needed their content. They had all of this, these documents and stuff that people could download, and we need to organize it and really understand what we had. Some of it we need to put on the website and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I come into the office one morning, and there's this huge pile of paper by the fax machine. She faxed all the content over for their website. They took digital content, they printed it, and faxed it. And, my response was like, oh, stupid. What are they thinking? Well, who faxes content in 2005? And I'm thinking, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, obviously there's a gap here. And I didn't do my job. I didn't do enough asking the right question up front. To get the understanding, to know that I should have given them more specific detail. It's on me. It's not on her. It's not on them. It's on us to make sure that we're getting enough information and asking the right questions up front, that we know who we're working with and we know how to help them help us. It's so important. People aren't going to be always at the same place on technology and the stuff that we do, and it's not about educating them. It's about helping them and collaborating with them and understanding who they are so that you know how far you need to go to meet them where they're at. It's so important. So important. All right, here's a... I feel like we missed one there. Okay. Love what you do. So this sounds really cliche, but as a person who has been through a lot of burnout, had a lot of career changes along the way, one thing I am really proud of is that I do love what I do. And I can say that all along the way, even when I hit burnout, I knew enough that I was in a space that I needed to change directions. I needed to change things up so that I could still love what I do. But the relationship of loving what you do and your ability to sell ideas or sell what you do is that everything you do oozes. Everything you feel about what you do, it just radiates out of you. And people pick up on that. So if you're going to ooze, make it good ooze, right? If you love what you do, it comes out. It can't help but to just come out of you. And you want people picking up that vibe, not the I hate my miserable life because I have to go here. If you're feeling that, change stuff up. Watch my mouth. Change stuff up, Loving what you do. We're here. Most of us are here because we do love what we do, and we're getting better at what we do. We want to improve what we do. And, that's awesome. It's kind of a check yourself checkpoint, right? Love what you do. Do I love what I do? Hell yes, I love what I do, and I'm going to keep loving what I do because it comes out. And when people feel that, they want to work with you. They do. It's awesome. Unless you're overly enthusiastic and you drive people crazy, that could happen. Saying. I'm not for everyone, I know. But here's the last one, right? Be you. And again, this sounds like, okay, Jaimee, we know. Who else are we going to be? But like, look at this, right? Like, the one thing that has really served me well across 20 years is that the people that I have worked with, word of mouth has been my biggest advocate in marketing and sales. I don't do marketing and sales, I just don't. But people remember working with me. People have enjoyed working with me for the most part. Those who don't, I never hear from them again, I guess. But I've had no, shortage of work in my career. I've been very fortunate that way, and I'm very grateful for that. And people who like come back, no matter where I'm working, no matter what I'm doing, come back and say, hey, we'd love to work with you again. So are you still doing this? Are you doing that? If not, then I can point them to somebody who is. But the fact that they take the time and the effort, it shows me that I've done okay at being different in some way or standing out in some way. Find what makes you, you. If you don't know what that is, look for it. If you do know what it is, rock it. There's a lot to be said for you. In an industry where it could be comparing apples to apples, I mentioned that one project where we got the gig and the other company didn't. They were looking at apples to apples. What made us different was the follow-up, the care. So that was something that was different. That was something that set us apart. What is it that sets you apart? Is it your positive word choices? Is it your energy? What makes you, you? What's fun about working with you? People like fun. I like fun. So think about those things. What makes you, you? Be you. Amplify that. Because that is what makes us different in the sea of apples amongst apples and amazing developers and amazing consulting shops and amazing everything that we bring to the table, right? Think about those things and amplify those things. So yeah, I want to reinforce that, the art of the sell in essence is communication. If you have one skill that you can work on, think about communication. It creates this foundation. And if we get to that point where we have trust, you have freedom. No more killing the darlings. No more killing the darlings. Very few, if any. So, and then that's all I've got with the thing, but I want to share something with you. This isn't ready yet, but this is a little book which goes with this talk that I wrote. I'm working with our designer at Martian Craft. So it's like the little handy, literally fits in my pocket guide to this talk, which you can take back to the office or to friends and share. It should be ready in a couple weeks though, and I'll tweet about it when it's ready. But yeah, we thought that would be a handy little thing, and we're going to do a whole bunch more. So anyway, thank you for your time.